Feature Bootcamp Week 2. This is Story Beats. So we are going to talk structure today and start to organize the events that you have, mostly drawn from your logline. So a really strongly written logline will help you a lot here because it's going to help you figure out where some of those essential first story beats are going to go. So let's take a look at what we have for today. Here we go. Okay. So some info about us. We are now this nonprofit, as we've mentioned, Skill Camp, a 501c3 nonprofit. These are all free and low-cost classes to help you master the skills you need to reach your life goals. We have new classes coming soon in things like animation, lighting, other topics like that, comedy. We have camps that we've added for things like language learning, too. So we're trying to set up all kinds of different classes that your membership includes access to all these things. So come by our different servers and say hi if you're interested in novel writing. WordCamp is our server to check out. Novel writing bootcamp is Saturdays 12 to 2 for the rest of the year. We also have classes this week on Creator Camp and Film Camp, or that's next week, I believe. Right? Yeah. End of next week, we'll have Painting with Light, and later that day we'll have Lighting Home Studio. Nacho, do you have some info about Animation Lab?
Yeah, this is a 12-week course going over the 12 principles of animation. By the end of the course, and we'll also be, kind of setting you up with the software tools that you need to, create animation projects. And by the end of the course, you'll have a firm handle on the fundamental principles of animation, also multiple animated videos that you will have created by the end of the class that you can add to your portfolio.
Dang, I didn't know we included all that. That's awesome. So is that a boot camp? Are they making one thing for the final product, or is it they're sort of learning different things every week?
It's kind of like the first sort of a trial run of like a boot camp.
Okay.
So
cool.
We're just kind of getting started, but yeah, this is about the 12 principles of animation.
The 12 elements of Shaolin, which you must master 1 week at a time. Thank you for that. And that's taught by Beatrice, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So plenty of new stuff. We're adding new classes all the time. So plenty of things to do at the different skill camp servers. We have groups and things like this running as well. We have Fantasy Workshop Sundays at 5 that I come to pretty often to do guest topics on things like fight scenes, which we did last week. We'll be doing more creatures next time. I'm not sure the exact next day I'll be doing the group yet, probably the Sunday after this current one, because this Sunday, that's House of the Dragon finale, and I do have to see that. We have Horror Workshop as well, Tuesdays at 6. People really love Monica's group. And we have Writer's Lab Saturdays at 4. If you need extra help with anything, if you want to bring up to 5 pages of anything you're working on, that is a good place to go with questions and topics that you'd like to hear expanded on. If you still need to buy the class, you can go to scriptcamp.net/classes, or you can start a free trial for unlimited membership at scriptcamp.net/membership. So, Feature Bootcamp schedule. Last week we did Why the Story, and we looked at finalizing the logline and filling out that sketchbook. Hopefully we have a more complete logline this week using feedback that you got in the first week if you were there. If not, or if you're just joining now, you'll have to try to finalize your logline today if you can, because we're going to be using that to figure out where do those key moments of the story go. Next week we'll do scene cards, which is an expansion of the Story Beats outline into a full paragraph for every scene. After that, we will be going through pages. So you'll start pages on week 4, November 4th, and from there you'll be writing about 20 to 25 pages a week, maybe 4 or 5 pages a day on weekdays alone. And we're going to do week 4 be the beginning of the movie, week 5 transitioning to second act. Second act is weeks 6 and 7, and third act is week 8, final draft, or I should say first draft, complete by December 9th. So this is the last full boot camp of the year. Here's an overview of today. We'll start with check-in and ask about updates. What have you improved your logline using feedback from last time, and maybe show us the current version of that, or maybe you've changed your idea or come up with some other idea that you need to tell us about now. And we will just get that sort of update from you and maybe give you a couple pointers to adjust that logline so that we make sure to have that really set in stone as much as we can. We'll look at structure and some common structure issues, look at examples of story beats, talk a little bit perhaps about theme and argument and how you could use these ideas to figure out what you're trying to say with the movie and what's the best way to actually deliver that message. And then we may have time for exercises at the end. Let's go into update from last time. So go ahead and post your logline and sketchbook if you want to in the chat in the assignments channel. Maybe you came up with some great scenes or blockbuster moments you want to tell us about. If anyone's still having trouble with the logline, now is a good time to tell us. And you should also tell us about the thing that you read for this week, which we will be asking about every single week. You should be reading pro scripts at least one every week. I recommend 3 a week, but at the very least one, and just come ready to talk about it. What did you notice? What did you learn? Things like that. Let's start by posting those things now. So post those log lines in the chat in the assignments channel, and we will take a look. And I'm just going to go down the list and just ask everyone for an update. Let's start with Carmen.
So I got up to page 65 and just the scene cards.
This is for a script? I thought you were writing a book too, right? Or is that the same project? Or you're writing 2 separate things?
I'm just trying to challenge myself to see if I can do both.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And so you're on page 65 of your current feature, so you're pretty far along?
Not pages, but just the scene cards.
Oh, for the cards. I see. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you're a little ahead. That's okay. And what's the name of the movie or the logline? Do you have it for us here?
It's The Gods of Sutter Street. Yes, I can post my. Let me post my. What do you call it?
The logline or sketchbook?
Yeah, I can do the logline too.
Okay.
Let me go into that and.
Do you want me to come back to you in a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll circle back around. Let's keep going down the list. We'll check with Dan. Update logline from last time.
I think the logline, I've kept it kind of in a very much the same place as it is, because it just seems to be a good jumping point from where I want to go. I've got I think I've with the thing, if the script will load, I'll tell you exactly how many pages. I don't have 65 of them. So I'm not that far ahead in this. I'm up to page... Oh, that's the wrong script. I think I'm up to page... I think I'm 10 pages in.
Oh, okay. You've already started pages, so you have...
Yeah, I've started writing. I kind of just... I don't know. I get started, it's somehow... So all that sketching I've done, I'm probably going to have to... I kind of went in... I just got into a thing, and I like where it went. It didn't go in the direction my sketchbook wanted to go. So I'm going to go back to the sketchbook later in this weekend and really go through it again. But I'm liking the direction where it's going now.
Okay. So
not much has changed.
Go ahead.
You know, it's happened to people, right? Where you're writing something and it's like, wait, I like where this is going now. But all of these things that I've planned, all of these other branches of the tree no longer work.
I'm sure that happens to people all the time, yeah.
So that's kind of what's happening to me.
Okay. So you just started pages just to sort of feel it out and just try things, but you're still... Yep. Are you still working?
I'm liking the direction kind of going. The dialogue is still a little chunky and a little on the nose, but this is draft one. This is like draft one. That's this place where it should all sound like you have no idea what subtext is.
Sure. Okay. Can you post either sketchbook or logline in the assignments channel?
Sure.
Looks like a few folks have joined us. Hi, Kevin and Kim and... Is it Zat? Or how should we refer to you? Zataug? Feel free to let us know in the chat, or you can right-click on your name and change it to something else if you'd like. Do you want me to come back to you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm just loading it up.
Okay. Carmen, are you ready now?
Yes.
Okay. So for those just joining us, hi folks, welcome. We are posting log lines from last week, most of which have been updated using the feedback that you got last time. And we are trying to finalize those log lines today so we can start working on structure. Thanks for posting your logline, Josh. I can come back to you guys in a minute if you need more time to post or to find your material to copy and paste. Okay, I'll come back to you in a little bit. Let's go down to Josh because he just posted his. Go ahead, Josh.
Hello. I am feeling pretty damn good about my log line. I had been brainstorming all week, and I ended up talking to my dad, and ran it by him, and he happened to just know things about avalanches and how they like, and how that all works, like how avalanches happen. And that there's this new season of Frozen Planet happening where they use drones to capture avalanche footage.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was an interesting way to go about it. And I also didn't know that like most avalanches are caused on purpose,
right,
for safety reasons.
Yeah, so that they don't build up too much.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's room to play in that space. So my current logline is: when an ambitious content creator makes a viral video after causing an avalanche, he and his crew must work together to find the drones carrying the footage lost in the snowy, dangerous wilderness.
Okay. So my suggestions would probably be something like I don't mind ambitious content creator that much. I mean, I guess I could maybe see how that might kind of describe this unique character. It may not be the absolute best adjective to use, but it works for now.
Yeah.
My thought would be I would take the part out at the beginning how he makes a viral video. When an ambitious content creator accidentally causes an avalanche.
Yeah. That's yep.
It may be something more, or maybe you even want to phrase the first half like, because this is definitely the main character, right? This guy that is sort of in charge of the team.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're framing the main goal as he needs to find the drones, but really the goal is the more pressing goal is survive, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd probably consider framing this more, when he gets in over his head, dragging his team out on a dangerous, drone recovery run. This soft boy content creator is forced to pull his team together and get them out of the situation. Isn't that kind of more what you're saying the movie is?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I know I didn't write anything down there, but maybe frame it more along those lines, like the inciting incident, even though this might be more like the break into two in the movie. But for the purposes of the log line, the first clause would be something like, when he brings his team out there, ill-equipped, you want to emphasize that he's not a survival expert, I think, don't you? Or is he?
Yeah. No, he's not.
He's not. Okay. So in that case, then an ill-equipped or an unprepared content creator takes his team into the wilderness and now finds that he has to be the one to get them out of it. I think that's how you want to frame it. We don't really care about the drones. Like, whether they get the drone footage or not is pretty immaterial to the audience, I feel. When the more pressing stakes and the much higher stakes are, this is a survival thriller. We don't really even need to mention the drones aren't the objective. Living is the objective, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's the primal force there. Let me just think about this for a moment.
Yeah, you can take your time and you can adjust it and check back at the end of class if you want to.
Yeah. I just wanted to see if I had any immediate questions.
Okay.
I'll think about it as the class goes on, and if anything comes into my head, I'll ask, and
sure.
I'll work on getting something ready for the end of the class.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I think you're almost there. It's just the way that I think the idea is pretty much there. It's just the way that you express it. We just want to be making sure that we are telling what the reader what is the meat of the movie going to be, where does the conflict lie, and what's the most interesting thing happening here. Make sense?
Okay.
Thank you, Josh.
Yes, and then otherwise, yeah, no problem. I didn't read anything, but you had mentioned that there's a short film script contest that you guys are going to be running,
Oh yeah, for Halloween.
and that's what I worked on this week.
Oh great. Okay.
Uh, I have a pretty fantastic script that I'm really, really proud of. That I'm just doing final tweaks on, and so I'll be submitting that.
Awesome. 5 pages or less, right?
I'll get it down to 5 pages.
Okay, yeah, that's the contest is shorts 5 pages or less. I'm sure you can do it. So I'm glad that you're excited about the idea though. Where that you can win a whole year of subscription here if you win first place.
Good to know.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks.
Let's check with Kim. So if you weren't at the very beginning, we're posting log lines in the chats and trying to finalize those if we can. Are you there, Kim?
Hey, Connor. Sorry. I just have what I worked on with you a little bit. I have to take this class a little bit slow because I'm working a full-time job, so I don't have anything else other than the log lines with Conor section that I posted.
Okay.
If you need to skip me, that's okay.
Yeah, that's all right. Can I ask, have you read a script for this week as well? Or, have you been reading proscripts to... Go ahead.
I have not read anything this week.
Okay, so for next week, try to just pick a blacklist script. And if you're still working on the log line, then you can make adjustments to it, and you can post it by the end of class, and I can try to give you some more pointers on it if you are able to get a new one together by then.
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna take this process slow, so just, don't let me annoy you or anything.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, no, you're totally good.
Okay, I'll try to work on it and see if I can put something in there, in the chat.
Sounds good, yeah, just write in the assignments channel would be great.
Okay, alright.
Thank you. Let's keep going down the list. We have... Oh, great. Zato posted one. And then Joe Tool has a question for me. Let's go to Joe Tool. So your question was, I was considering changing my character adjective to risk-averse. What sort of action on screen would this suggest by way of being? Do you have your current logline to post for us? So we can see the whole thing?
Sorry, my earphones working to talk through?
I can hear you. It's a little muffled, but I think I can hear you fine.
Okay, yeah. Give me 1 sec. I'll just post it. It was the one about a security guard.
Right.
Looking for the painting. What is it?
Do you want me to come back to you?
Yeah, I'll be about 20 seconds, sir.
Okay, no problem. Let's check with Kevin. Are you there, Kevin? Maybe not. Okay.
Hello. Hey, sorry.
Go ahead.
On the bike. Takes me a little while to reply. Yeah, I posted my log line in the assignments.
There it is.
Just
Thank
a
you.
minute ago.
Mm-hmm. How are you feeling about this? What's the any questions left about this, or do you feel good about this? Anything else you want to share here?
No, I'm just posting it. It's because I actually sent this script to you like a while back for coverage. And,
wait, yeah, I read this one.
Yeah. I've basically done a rewrite based on your notes. So I'm kind of coming to class to work through it, and I haven't started the rewrite as such. I've re-outlined and rethought the log line, and basically picked up on all the points you mentioned, which were actually really useful. So
awesome.
Yeah, I'm just on the course to rewrite it while this course is running.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, I remember this one. This was cool. So when a headstrong woman's bad luck streak... Oh, we're getting some spam in the on the YouTube stream, I think. Not sure. Do you see that? We might just need to ban some spammers again. when a headstrong woman's bad luck streak goes from bad to worse, she must admit her past mistakes to defeat the cause of her bad luck. A body-hopping demon out to kill those she loves most. Okay, so this takes quite a while to get to the kind of hook, I feel. I think that you're kind of putting a little too much importance on the earlier stuff. Her bad luck going from bad to worse. She must admit her past mistakes. Go ahead.
Yeah, because the demon's causing her bad luck. It is very wordy, so yeah.
So is it when she discovers that a demon is causing her streak of bad luck? Is that the inciting incident?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so maybe frame it more like that. So when she discovers that a demon, and put the demon pretty early on, so we know what the hook of the movie is. So when a body-hopping demon starts to, however we want to explain this, you might even want to say starts to kill people around her, which I think is a little bit more urgent. The luck thing, I don't think really, it might not even need to be in the log line. But so when she discovers this demon is killing people around her, or when she finds out, perhaps if the luck is really important, that it could be when she finds out her bad luck is being caused by this demon, she has to find a way to kill it before it kills those she loves most, something like that. And in that way, we'll just be putting the hook a little bit closer to the front. We want to not be spending most of the words before we're like, oh, there's a demon in the movie. We want to front load that a little bit.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And what do you mean when you say she must admit her past mistakes? What will that admit them to? Who?
Oh, basically, she's got to make up with her family, especially her mother, so they can work together to beat it.
So they can wait. So will simply working with her mother cause the demon to die, or you're saying that she has to actually? It's just this partnership will allow her to defeat it.
I mean, it allows her to defeat it because they work together. I guess it's not really something I need in the log line.
That's like the theme. It sounds like you're saying that's that's sort of
throughout the whole film, it's like
because
she's headstrong
journey,
and she doesn't want to accept help from people. Yeah, but basically, the internal. Is it necessary in the log line, or
probably not? You're saying admit her past mistakes as if that itself will defeat the demon, which is not the case.
Right. Okay.
What's going to defeat it is she needs to team up with her estranged mother. It sounds like, or just maybe they're not estranged, but just define that relationship there. Like, why is teaming up with this person going to be difficult or interesting to watch? She has to team up with her blank mother in order to defeat this demon, something like that. So just so we aren't framing the action and the conflict as something, we don't want to mislead the reader into thinking she just admits her past mistakes, then the demon just fades away into nothingness. That's kind of just the internal part of the external journey. So maybe frame it a little more about the external journey. Headstrong woman needs to team up with her, when she discovers the demon is responsible, she needs to team up with her estranged, blank, whatever, mother to defeat it before it kills the people she loves. Something like that. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
All right, thanks for this. Any questions?
No, I'm just going to write down these notes, actually.
Cool. And any scripts that you read for this week?
Black Pill.
Great, what's that one?
It's a story. It's off the blacklist. It's about, I guess it's called an incel who's obsessed with,
I have heard of this.
Yeah, it's a good character piece. It's not very, you get to the end and you think, oh, there's not that much that happens. But, the person's obviously done a lot of research into the world of the guy and the woman he's obsessed with. It's alright. It's an interesting read, but it's a bit plot light.
Is this a drama or a thriller?
I'd recommend reading. It's a thriller. Yeah, he kidnaps the woman without any spoilers.
Okay, that's cool. I'd check that out for sure. That's on 2020 or 2021 Blacklist?
I think it's 2021.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Thank you for that.
Nice.
Thanks, Kevin. Who did I say I would come back to? Carmen or Jotul? Go ahead. I think I heard something.
So do you want to go?
You go, Conor. Thank you.
I think you said for Carmen to go ahead.
Okay. Okay, this is what I have on the scene cards. I was too lazy to look at the bullet list, the bullets, the bullet points.
For the logline?
Oh, we're talking about the log line right now?
Yeah, can you post in
Oh,
assignments?
yeah. Oh, in the assignments?
Mhm.
Okay.
Or if it's somewhere else, like, we can just repost it if you posted it already.
I put it in the chat.
Oh, okay, great. I'll repost it then. Where is it? Oh,
It's just underneath the link.
Ghost tour one. I see. Okay. So let's put it in assignments just so we can keep it straight. So Carmen. Okay, what's the title or the title was what, God of Sutter Street? Was that right? Gods.
God.
The Gods of Sutter Street. Okay.
Mm.
And what's the genre here?
Horror comedy.
Horror comedy. Okay, great. Okay. So where is it? Here it is. Okay. When a skeptical ghost tour guide becomes a primary suspect, you'd probably want to say the primary suspect. In a series of ritual killings, he discovers that a human sacrificing Aztec cult is responsible, probably another comma, and must stop them from bringing about an era-ending earthquake. This is pretty good. Let me just check if there's anything I would change here. A central relationship, maybe? If you can highlight that, if there is a central relationship here, maybe add that in, because we are only mentioning one character. And maybe if you can tell us who is the villain, or who is the love interest, or who's the best friend, or something like that, it would give us a little tiny bit clearer of a picture. But this is a really strong logline. You're like, this works fine as is. So if you have that relationship there that you would bring into it, I would do it. But if not, you're totally good.
There is a relationship, and it's actually instrumental to the plot.
Oh, great! I would definitely include that then.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's only with the help of this person that he can do this, or maybe it's, this is his rival or someone that's opposing him in some way, or something like that. We just like a sense of more than one person if we can.
Okay.
Cool. Any questions on this? This looks good. Besides that, you said you've already started, or you've been working through scene cards, so you're a little bit ahead here, right?
Yeah, I'm up to 65.
Great. Okay. Everything going well?
Are we talking about beats right now? Or
yeah, that's what we're doing this class today.
Okay, should I wait or?
Oh, if you have a lot to go over, we can wait a little bit. Yeah, I just wanted just a general sense of how's it going. Like, do you feel it's going well?
I think that I'm doing what I almost always do, which is putting way too much, too many ingredients in the stew kind of thing. So I gotta pick my favorites for this story and maybe just save some of the other stuff for another story or something,
Sure. Okay, yeah, we can look at the sketchbook today if that would help you decide what you want to keep.
Okay, thank you.
And anything you've read recently you want to tell us about?
I have been reading. I got halfway through The Ring last night, but then I fell asleep.
Oh, great.
Not that I didn't like it, but I was just like overwhelmingly tired. So
Sure.
Nothing was going to keep me awake,
Mm-hmm. That's a really, really well written script.
Yeah, I did have to read the opening lines a lot.
About the VHS sliding into the machine.
Yeah, because it's really abstract, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically like showing you the inner workings of a VHS and describing them in a way that makes them feel kind of like almost bizarre and alien to watch. And this shot isn't even in the movie, but it is really cool how he writes it in the script. But it is using this sort of intentionally abstract, strange vocabulary to describe something that at the time was very common. I mean, people don't really use VHS anymore, but taking that idea of the VHS and turning it into this almost alien artifact is what the intention behind that moment is, I think.
Cool. So
yeah, definitely read the rest of that one. That sounds good. Go ahead.
I read. I don't remember if I talked about this before. I think I did. So we're on a new week. Idle Hands. Yeah.
Right, yeah, I've seen that.
Okay.
I've never read the script, but and I understand it's quite different from the movie. I think the ending is completely different, but it's a really fun watch.
Really? Okay. What I think I got from it as far as the tools that I need to write this, because I'm not familiar with the genre,
Hmm.
is that a lot of the funniness comes from the dialogue.
Sure,
Yeah.
it
So not
absolutely can.
so much situational, but the response to the situations, you
That's a good
know.
point. Yeah. I would
Yeah.
definitely watch Shaun of the Dead and Jennifer's Body are probably usually considered the best horror comedies, and maybe Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. That's
Okay.
kind of like what most people think of when they think of horror comedy, I guess. And maybe early Peter Jackson movies too, like Dead Alive or things like that. But yeah, the sort of ones I would check out: Shaun of the Dead, Jennifer's Body, and Evil Dead 2. I guess would be my top three.
So I was telling Nacho about my idea, and the love interest, she has to be de-virginized. So then Nacho was laughing, so I thought maybe that's something that I should put in there in the dialogue. The
Sure.
the
You
thing
mean
of
just that
being
word, or,
de-virginized.
or okay? Yeah, it could be funny, depending on how it's played. Cool.
So that's
Well, I'm looking
basically,
forward to seeing more. Yeah, this sort of evil Aztec cult horror comedy is the idea behind yours, right?
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, looking forward to reading more. Sounds like you're making good progress.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carmen. Who else did I skip past? Jochel, do you want to give us your update now? Maybe he stepped away. Okay, we'll look at where is it? Zataug has one called. Where did it go? I just had it. Do you want to read your logline for us? Zat. Can you hear me okay?
Sorry, I had to cut away from a while. Was that me, or were you talking to someone else?
Oh, I called on you a moment ago. We didn't hear you, so I thought you were away from
Sorry.
the keyboard.
That's my bad.
No big deal. Let's. So I was trying to check in with Zataug. I'm not sure if he can hear us. Are you there, Zat? I see your mic is muting and unmuting, so maybe you're trying to speak, but we're not able to hear. Maybe check to make sure you're not on push to talk mode in the settings. Or if you're not able to get it to work today, maybe if you don't want to rejoin on your phone or something like that, that usually helps. It's not working. Maybe talk mode. Sure. Or you can just stay with text today if you want to. I just wanted to see what the logline was. Let me scroll up and find it. You posted it in the chat, right? Or did you repost in assignments? For some reason, I can't find it now. Was it in this channel? Oh, you deleted it.
I think he's saying he deleted it. Yeah.
You can just share a partial one if you want, and we can give you some pointers and help you make a final version of this today. Or if you're still working on this and just need more time, that's okay. Maybe make that your goal by the end of today. Try to get that as done as possible. Need more time. Okay. So yeah, try to, during our structure talk today, try to write out that one sentence, when inciting incident, an adjective protagonist must conflict before stakes. And even if it's not complete, it's not the final version, just try to come up with some version of that today. Thank you for that. Let's check with Jojo. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me just go back up. Yeah, so I posted the log line. Sorry, Zat's deleted his, so mine's just, no, it just looks like a big blotch of text.
Okay, I see it. I found it.
Yeah, it's kind of in the middle. Yeah, I'll like single it out.
I'll just post it in assignments. There we go. Okay, after his favorite painting goes missing on his watch, an obsessed, or socially anxious or risk averse. I guess you're trying to decide between those three descriptors.
Yeah.
Guard must use the contents of a mysterious suitcase and the help of a naive or reckless actress to find it. Okay, this is cool. So you're trying to these are the traits that you're trying to figure out which one you want to go with, or are you trying to decide which one to highlight and emphasize?
Well, yeah. So I know we talked about like the obsession part seems to be quite important because it is implying stakes that way, and it's also implying some type of a downfall, which I think is important, and I agree with you. But I guess through just like a bunch of thinking, I came across the term risk averse, and I was kind of like, it seems to be a pretty accurate way of describing what is driving the main character's like central internal conflict in some sense. It's like he's driven by fear in a lot of ways. And he's a fear of getting hurt, fear of getting judged, just all of this stuff, which leads to him being socially anxious, which leads to him doing all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But I did, and I guess I wanted to sort of, well, the only reason I was considering at least him like writing it to see what you thought was because I like the idea that the girl who is this actress, her whole point in some sense, or that their whole clash, but also their interest in one another, comes from the fact that they're complete opposites in that regard. Like he's overly cautious, she's almost the exact opposite. I just didn't really know whether or not naive was the right word for that to imply that sort of relationship. Like as much as they seem they almost seem too alike in that logline, maybe. So I was kind of like, I wanted to highlight that they kind of have very opposite ways of looking at the world. So I wasn't sure if you thought better.
I think it works. A risk-averse security guard and a reckless actress. I can totally see the contrast there pretty clearly. So if you think that describes it pretty well, then I think you could totally go with that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was curious. Just to maybe I don't know. I was just trying to think of like movies that have that type of character, because I was worried that it might imply that he's not active in some sense, but it's not that. It's just
no.
Okay.
It's where he starts, and we understand that the movie will be the journey of him becoming, taking more risks and like breaking out of his comfort zone. I think I didn't get the sense that he was inactive at all.
Okay, cool. Is there any movies that you can think of that have either that type of dynamic or at least even just a character you can think of who's like quite risk averse? I think like one of the movies that came to my mind was like I think it was like Along Came Polly or something.
Have you seen watched Super by James Gunn with Rainn Wilson and Ellen Page and Liv Tyler?
No, could you just repeat that for me, sir? Super.
Yeah, I wrote it in the chat. Super. It's just called Super. It's written and directed by James Gunn, and it's a quite good dark comedy about a guy that he's like a meek, mild-mannered dude that his wife gets taken by a drug dealer, so he's like, well, I'm going to be a superhero to get her back, and he teams up with Ellen Page's character, who's kind of a psychopathic comic store employee. Sort of like crappy superheroes, and he beats people up with a wrench. It's quite good. So I think that has a similar dynamic to what you're suggesting.
Yeah, more he's just like afraid of taking like risks. I mean, that's pretty fucking tough. What's a better way of wording it? Just afraid of like putting himself in an uncomfortable position or something like that. Or yeah, okay, cool.
I'll check that one out. I'll let you know if I think of more good ones, but that's one that just sprang to mind right away.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if anyone else thinks of anything as well, just chuck it in the chat.
Yeah,
it'd be really helpful.
Let us know in the text if you think of more.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone that I've moved past? Or did we come back to Dan, for instance? Dan?
I did post a sketchbook. It technically is complete, but it's going to be reworked.
Okay. Is it in assignments or is it in the chats?
It is in the chat. Oops, was I supposed to put it in the assignments? My bad.
It's fine.
I didn't even realize there was an assignments channel.
No problem. Yeah, it's every bootcamp has an assignments channel. Try to just put. I try to keep things organized by just putting them all in there so we don't lose track. So I've reposted it, and this is the last horseman. And is the logline in here? Yes, it is. Okay. So banished to Earth after ruining Armageddon yet again. A nervous wreck of a horseman at the apocalypse. Whoops. forms a team with a self-absorbed Sin and an archangel to help him protect an Earth he grows to love. Wasn't there a part in your prior logline where you said something like an embodiment of vanity or something like that?
I did. I don't know why I got. Yeah, I think in my rewriting I must have gotten rid of that and forgot to put it back.
I think that is a little bit clearer than a sin. I think most people are not just really familiar with that idea that a sin could be embodied as a character. So I think it made a lot of sense to say the embodiment of blank. I understood that.
Right. That kind of went over my head.
No big deal. So yeah, maybe try to find a way to put that back in. The rest of this sounds quite good. An Earth he grows to love. It's just a little. We might want to put that he. Yeah, I think is the order of events right there. It might be more that you want to say something like, banished to Earth after ruining Armageddon yet again. A nervous wreck of, and we probably don't want to say a wreck of a horseman of the apocalypse. Just two of sentences in a row. A nervous horseman of the apocalypse, something like that, forms a team. We might want to say like grows to love the Earth somehow. I'm not sure if that's the best way to put it, but it just feels like it needs to go earlier because this happens before, right? You're sort of putting the thing that happens earlier after where.
I think he still wants. I think no matter what, he thinks he wants to go back to hell all this time. But then he's like, no, wait, I actually want to protect this place from war who's going crazy and is going to set off atomic bombs all over the world.
Mm-hmm. This is one of the few cases where we might say something like, does that work? To protect an Earth he has grown to love. I think that actually does work there. Normally we try to avoid past tense or past participles like that, or pluperfect, I guess is what this tense is called, in loglines. But I think here it works because
perhaps you could say he falls in love with.
But it still feels like. Go ahead.
Or maybe it's he learns to love.
I think it's the tense that is throwing me off because we're first saying he puts the team together to do what? To defend the Earth he grows to love. Why would he put the team together unless he already had grown to love it, is the question. It feels like he gets banished to Earth, he grows to love the Earth, then he puts together the team, I think is what you're saying is the order of events. So I would maybe go with an Earth he has grown to love and just see if that works. For right now, I think it does, but this isn't a huge deal. I'm kind of just being a stickler about tense, and I think the majority of this is pretty much fine, and I think this is a good logline. So maybe I'll just put a perhaps re-examine tense of last part. Just a note next to it. Maybe we'll come back to this, but I think your logline's pretty much there. So good job with this.
Most of the stuff we worked on for the act overview is relatively the same.
Okay.
I got all the way to the epilogue.
Great.
Which is going to likely wind up falling into a different order.
Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, we'll be doing this today. We'll be doing structure stuff today, so you can start going through and marking up where those different moments will be. Like you can say, for instance, like this is going to be break into two. This is going to be like premise scenes, and maybe just subdividing this a bit more and to organize this into structural headings. So that's what you can do during the lecture portion today. Any questions on this?
Not yet. Not so far.
All right. Awesome.
Should I post pages I've written?
No, you don't have to. If you really want to, you can. I'm not sure we'd have time to get to it today because we're almost an hour in currently. But if you want to get pages reviewed, you can bring them to lab tomorrow. Up to you. Let me know. Lab is 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock Pacific time on Saturdays. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone I didn't get to, or anyone who did not give us an update, or anyone who wants to tell us about something they read that they did not already tell us?
I just put in my new logline there at the bottom.
Oh, great. Okay. 1 second. of assignments or of the chat? Let me open the chat.
I put it in assignments.
Good.
Well, I put it in both, but...
Oh, I see it there. The storm. Okay. After being turned into animals by a frustrated wizard, a shy mayor must gather his strength to unify the townspeople before staying animals forever. So, I think we might just need to clarify what the character actually has to do here. Saying he must gather his strength is an internal process. If you would say something like he needs to, unify the townspeople to take them from one place to another, that would be more of a concrete goal, right? We need to get them all to work together to get out of the woods or to get back to our hometown or to find the magic gem that will turn them back into humans or something like that. And then you might want to clarify what exactly is the ticking clock here. It might be, before the eclipse, which means that they will, stay animals forever. Or they have 30 days to fix it. Something just more specific that tells us how what are the actual boundaries or walls around the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the shy mayor has to unify the townspeople. That's a good basis for a movie, for sure. I think we want to know, unify them to do what, though? Like, what are we going to be doing in the second act?
Well, the whole problem is, the wizard cursed them because they wouldn't listen to his prophecy in the first place that a storm was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, ultimately, the wizard is going to be the one who turns them back into animals, but he has to see them learn to, work together. So I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to have them, solve some type of a riddle or go on some type of a journey, but I don't know if that seems ridiculous, knowing that at the end the wizard just turns them back. It's like, well, why did you bother going anywhere if he was just going to turn you back? But he's trying to teach them to listen more and to learn more and to work together because he's not going to be there forever.
That makes
the
perfect
wizards,
sense.
they go.
I don't think it's a problem at all that he's the one that turns them back, because he has some kind of criteria. He sets up if he sets up some kind of challenge for them, that he's saying, by succeeding at this, you will have proven that you have learned to work together, right? So he would have given them some kind of challenge or task or something that would require teamwork to accomplish.
Okay, maybe I just need to insert the task into the log line.
For sure.
That will... Yeah, so that would come before the after sentence, right? Before the last comma.
After being turned into animals by a frustrated wizard, a shy mayor must, organize the townspeople to complete the wizard's quest, retrieve the gem from the cave before the full moon, at which point they'll turn into animals forever. Something that was too many words, but something like that might work. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm sure you'll figure it out by just play around with that a little bit. Try to give us the thrust of the quest. So, is this a travel-based quest? Is this we have to defend a town kind of quest? Is this we have to survive a certain amount of time? Just figure out what that goalpost and that objective is.
I want them to solve a riddle, but I have to figure out how to write a riddle, so that's the only thing that's preventing me from finishing this logline is what is my actual riddle gonna be.
But a riddle is something you can solve by just standing around and talking about it, right? So maybe it would be more you have to go to this place, and the place you need to go to is a riddle or something like that. Or we have to figure out.
Yeah, something like that. Because that would bring in the teamwork part that unifies them and stuff. Because it's kind of like an ancient community. They're not exactly... I mean, he can see into the future, so he knows they need to build cities and stuff like that, but they're not really in that, they're kind of in the Robin Hood mode, or even pre-Robin Hood, where they don't really know how to build all that stuff yet, so...
Okay. They have no thumbs, I imagine, too, right? So you have to maybe think of what could a bunch of animals do? It would probably, in that case, be a travel-based quest is what you want.
Okay. Maybe I'll...
Unless you can think of some other awesome thing that a bunch of animals could do together. I mean, the most compelling thing, to me, that a bunch of different animals could do together is have to get from one place to another. And obviously that journey would be dangerous or have challenges along the way.
Yeah. Maybe I can make it so that they are picking up, an item, and every time they solve a riddle, they pick up an item, and that item makes something, and then that proves to the wizard that they can work together. Maybe
Sure, they need to complete 3 challenges, and you get a gem for each challenge you complete. There's 3 total, something like that.
Okay, I'll write it. I'll write it a little bit more, and I'll put it in the log lines with Connor tomorrow.
Sounds good. Hope this was helpful. You're almost there. Just gotta find the specifics of the quest. I think is gonna be what the key is here.
Yeah, this is always the hard part for me, the log line.
It's okay. Once you figure out the logline, you'll figure out the story.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Connor.
Thank you. All right. Is that everybody? Have I not checked in with anyone that needs feedback?
I can certainly wait till the end of the class, but I did put in a new updated logline.
Okay, let me just check it right now, because I'll probably forget if I have to wait the whole class. All right, when he brings his team out to the wilderness to create a viral video, an out-of-his-depth content creator must get them out of the wilderness after causing an avalanche. Ooh, you're close. It's just that we probably don't want to have the after at the very end. After causing an avalanche. When he brings his team out to the wilderness to film the avalanche, the aftermath of the avalanche he caused. Well, I don't know if you need to do that much, but it's just the order here. Just I think we put the inciting incident at the end, right? So when he brings his team to the wilderness to create a viral video, and out of his depth, content creator must get them out. We probably don't want to say the wilderness twice in the same sentence.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Yep.
Okay. Maybe more specifically, you can give us like he must get them out of a canyon, or he must get them over a mountain, or give us like the specific arena that he's in that they need to get out of. They need to, get out of a valley or something like that, and then maybe highlight the challenge, before a blizzard moves in and they all freeze to death, or before wild animal. You might give us a couple things before wild animal attacks and the weather kill them, something like that. Maybe just highlight the specifics of the challenge. But yeah, this is probably the right idea to start it with him going to the wilderness. We may not even need to mention. I'm trying to figure out if you need to mention the avalanche in the logline at this point. Do you think you do?
That's what I was thinking. Or I could say before. I mean, the avalanche could be the ticking clock.
You mean it hasn't happened yet?
I'm just changing my thought, my idea on the fly. If I want, if I want it to be the ticking clock, but I kind of want it to be the thing that happens. I kind of want it to be the catalyst.
Okay. Yeah, I would. It sounds like
Avalanche.
This version of the logline is working pretty well. We may not. You might just want to leave that kind of a surprise for the script. If it ends up getting in the way of, or if it ends up distracting a little bit too much from just the basics of the survival story, you might just want to frame the survival story as, guy brings his team to the wilderness, they get in over their head, now he needs to get them out of it. As long as we understand why that would be difficult, like I like how you described an out of his depth content creator. I get that. You might just want to put in a little bit of extra sauce if you don't mention the avalanche thing, which would be like central relationship or the specific obstacles that they'll be facing. They're being stalked by a pack of coyotes and they have 3 days to get out before they freeze to death or they run out of supplies or something like that. But you're quite close with this.
Cool. I just put it.
Questions there?
Yeah.
Okay, update.
When he brings his team out to the mountains to create a viral video, an out of his depth content creator must get them out of the wilderness before they ... and I'll figure out some kind of ...
Maybe like when he accidentally gets his team stranded in the wilderness, trying to create a viral video, an out of his depth content creator must get. So we need to mention that they get stranded or stuck or lost. How would we define what their predicament actually is? So, and maybe the first clause is that. So when they get lost in the wilderness trying to create a viral video, then that would just clarify the situation a tiny bit more. But yeah, again, very close.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure. All right. So we have done quite a few check-ins. There's actually more people in this course than I thought there were to begin with. So did somebody have a question just now, or did I mishear? I misheard. Okay. So, a bunch of people in this class. That's great. We'd love to have so many folks here. If you update your logline before the end of class, post it in assignments. I can give you a few words on it and help you try to solidify that in our last 5 minutes or so. Let's get on to Blockbuster Moments. So, I just want to remind you guys about these and have you be coming up with these. Even in class, you can have your sketchbook open, and you can be adding new stuff and coming up with ideas. And a big part of those ideas we should be coming up with are premise scenes. And at least one of your premises should probably be one of these big blockbuster moments, these iconic elevated moments with higher production value than the rest of the movie. So this would be like, your big sort of special effect shots perhaps might be like this. This is the, let's think of, I think a lot of us have probably seen Independence Day, and Independence Day has like 30 of these moments, but the big one is when the alien ships blow up major structures all over the world, right? Like one of them blows up the White House. It's like the most blockbustery moment thing ever. So you'd put that in your premises. Aliens blow up the White House if you were outlining a sci-fi disaster action movie like that. So you're trying to find those really great things that people remember, and you could easily see on the poster for the movie. That scene by itself would stand as an advertisement for the movie because it takes full advantage of your premise, and usually is going to be something that could kind of only happen in this world. That's not always the case, but it helps to make it similar to that. Where else would blockbuster moments go? In horror thriller especially, your opening scene can be a blockbuster moment, which we see in things like Scream, which does it really well. The cold open in Midsommar is kind of a great blockbuster moment. So these horror thriller kind of doesn't require as much time to get invested in a protagonist situation because we have these instinctive fears, and it's very easy for us to relate to a person in a life or death situation. So it doesn't take that long for the audience to get invested in what's going on in a horror thriller. So the opening scene can be a blockbuster moment in horror thriller. It doesn't have to be. Where should the other ones be? A couple in premise scenes, probably one during your finale, and one wherever you want. They're less common at the beginning just because we haven't had as much emotional investment, but you can put these wherever. You should just think of these completely free of context while you're brainstorming for your movie. Come up with a list of just 6 or 7 awesome things that would happen in this world given the pieces that you have, given the setup of the movie as you've envisioned it. You should be able to come up with just awesome moments that stand on their own, and then try to think of a way that you can work them in and make them make sense. You don't need to have those actually fully fleshed out. Just think of imagery, or think of just the emotions of moments. Think of something that breaks your heart, or think of something that would be hilarious. And even without the context, write those things down and start brainstorming for these great blockbuster moments. Anyone have questions about what a blockbuster moment is, or what an example of one might look like, or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, this is terrible timing on my part again, but I missed a little bit of what you said. So if you could just restate, that would be great. Or give an example.
Did my sound cut out?
No, it was just on my end. Sorry, I had to step away for literally just bad timing on my end.
Oh, okay, sure. So yeah, quick summary of this is you're coming up with, it's a good idea, even in the brainstorming phase, to come up with these awesome moments that could be on the poster or could be in the trailer and could stand on their own. You don't need to have any context around them, but just think of in terms of imagery or in terms of the emotion of the moment.
You did actually cut out this.
I did. Okay. Looks like OBS has disconnected, so we will have to upload this class recording later. Wait, Nacho, was this a live streamed class? Was this a free public live stream class?
No.
No.
Are you recording it?
I am.
Okay, awesome. It's great to do that as backup.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. It might take a couple days to get this uploaded. I don't know why that's happening lately. Blockbuster moments. They're awesome moments, free of context, that you come up with at the very beginning, perhaps, of the brainstorming phase, and they will stand on their own. They will be higher production value than the rest of the movie. They will be stuff that sticks in the mind and could act as an advertisement for the movie if we saw it in a trailer or a poster or something like that. That's really all I was talking about here.
Thank you.
Sure. So, try to think of maybe what would some great blockbuster moments be. Where would I put them? Generally, finale should be one. Generally, there should be 2 or 3 of them in premise scenes, and 1 or 2 just kind of wherever you want. Surprise us with where the other ones go.
Could I ask? This might literally defeat the point of these type of scenes to a certain degree, but with a more execution dependent type premise, do you have any good examples of when this is effectively used, for example? Or is it just missing the point?
Premise? I mean, sure. I mean, lots of. I don't think the premise scenes are really affected by if the movie is high concept or execution dependent necessarily. I could name a movie off the top. What's a horror movie I like? Hereditary is a great movie that's not high concept at all. It's very execution dependent and has a bunch of blockbuster scenes. We've got the first seance where the Joan contacts the son of her, or the ghost of her grandchild. We have this amazing finale sequence at the end where a main character that I will not reveal saws her own head off while floating in the air. We've got a bunch of great... So, like, I guess that's just why I'm thinking there's nothing that really separates what would make a premise scene, or what would make a really great blockbuster moment in a high concept versus an execution dependent movie. Did you maybe
I guess
something else, or go ahead?
Well, I just I feel like that genre is maybe like it kind of has high concept in it for me. Like when I think of what it more, maybe if it's still execution dependent, I feel like that genre is still very much like you can get away with some pretty crazy stuff. I just more mean like something like a drama, for example, something like just a genre where it's like it's very just normal stuff going on. How can you? What are some good ways to imply stuff like that? Is it location? Is it tension? Is it conflict? Like, is there anything like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a combination of all of those things. Dramas have plenty of blockbuster moments. Think of what Forrest Gump is a drama, right? Run, Forrest, run! As he slow motion runs down the street, his leg braces falling away. Or think of all these like big confessions in the rain in like a Nicholas Sparks movie or something like that. You know, big love confessions, these apologies. We have
good character moments. It seems like really big moments for their character. Okay, cool.
Right, exactly. It's going to be big moments for relationships, and for characters are probably where you want to put most of your attention. And also just think of imagery. Think of what would be awesome. Like, why do people spend so much time in movies talking about important stuff out in the rain? Because it looks cool and it feels important. So when you're having a conversation out in the rain, doesn't it just feel important somehow? Because it's like, we could have had this inside, but it's so urgent we had to talk about this now. Yeah, think in terms of elevated imagery or just moments that would just feel more important for the main character, they're going to be big markers in that person's journey. Forrest breaking out of his leg braces is a big moment for him because it represents him overcoming this, thing that's been holding him back. So I guess that would be where my tips were. Look at relationship and character, and that's where you're going to find blockbuster moments in genres that aren't... It's not going to be an action set piece, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the Forrest Gump example is actually a brilliant example because I think that just shows you don't need to have some like outrageously crazy thing going on for it to like sit with people, because that scene is like iconic. Like people quote that all the time, and it's such a simple scene really, but I guess it works because of the character. Okay, that's awesome. That's
think about Rocky. Rocky climbs a set of stairs, and that's kind of a
right. Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Right. So it's like being able to combine cool imagery in some sense with a impactful character moment seems to be like the real cool combo. Okay, cool. Cool, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are we? I have a message. It's just not telling me to upload the class after it's done. Sure, I can do that. What else? Where are we? Oh, yeah, blockbuster moments. So be brainstorming these. Unless you can come up with like 3 to 5 of these, you may not be ready to start the movie. And if your movie does not immediately, if your premise doesn't immediately help you, let you think of 3 to 5 of these, you may not have a strong enough premise. So, second act is where the movie happens, and second act is the movie. And these are usually going to be great moments in the second act. Think of a movie like The Matrix. I always say The Matrix is basically nothing but blockbuster moment after blockbuster moment, just chained together. It's not exclusively, but like from the middle to the end is sort of just rapid fire. One amazingly awesome sequence after another that are all impactful moments for the character, combined with something that just feels and looks cool. And that's kind of what makes it work. Let's proceed here. So, why do I have a reminder of the rules here? I'm not gonna. I think we've done enough discussion for today, so I'm not going to do this just now. But maybe let's just put it this way. Maybe this is your first time doing structure stuff before. Maybe you haven't tried other structural methods, or you have just tried to kind of wing it before. But I recommend trying to follow along with this as best you can, even if it's going to be a little bit more front-loading the work than you're used to, because this really is the writing part. Writing, story beats and scene cards is where the writing you really feel it start. But story beats is really important too, because this is where you're laying those essential foundations for where the story is going to go. So try to really put the time in and plan this so that you don't have to do it at the end in a rewrite. You're trying to do a little bit of extra work up front to make the writing easier, and this will help you finish. If nothing else, it will help you just write the entire script. So we're going to go to story beats now. So we're going to talk structure, and I just want to highlight quickly how you can get those first couple points down onto your structural board by just having a really strongly written logline. So I've gone over this a little bit before, but let me just write it out just to show you guys how this works. So remember, what does a logline template look like? It says, when inciting incidents, an adjective protagonist must conflict before or in order to stakes. So we already have a logline that is going to give us, like a strongly written logline will give us a few of those things already. So when after inciting incidents, that's page 10 to 15 perhaps, an adjective protagonist, that's like pages 1 to 10. That's what we have to set up in pages 1 to 10. If this is a trait this person is struggling with, or maybe some method that they use to accomplish their goals, some particular tactic that they specialize in, something like that, we want to see what that is and what that looks like. We also would like to see, typically in pages 1 to 10, the world working as intended. And that might mean we see the relationship functioning fine before it starts to fall apart. Or, if this is going to be an infidelity story, it might be like first 10 pages, we show the couple being together, being in love. The world is working as intended. If we watch them fighting from minute 1, it will be more difficult to get the audience on board for, well, oh no, I hope they don't break up. Or I hope that she doesn't cheat, or whatever. So, the world working as intended. Don't start poking holes in the world right away. Especially if the story fundamentally revolves around a character that needs to later that question some kind of system or break that kind of system, or get out of a relationship or something. If we show it to be flawed from the very start, the audience will struggle to understand how it even got that far in the first place. And this happens in sci-fi all the time. If the flaws in your sci-fi world are so clear and so obvious, or fantasy, fantasy or sci-fi, usually you see this in dystopian sci-fi stuff. But if the flaws in it are so clear, then we might just start to question, well, how did society even evolve to this point if the flaws are that obvious? So if this is going to be a story like that, where we see this is a world working as intended and we're going to subvert that throughout the movie, we do need to see how it's supposed to work in the first 10 to 15 minutes or so. What else? An adjective protagonist must conflict, that's premise scenes. To end, basically, but it's going to give you a big part of what we're doing in the premise scenes. Before stakes, and that's going to be either happens or seems on the verge of happening at All Is Lost. So, by just having a strongly written logline, we have a sense of inciting incidents. We have intro. We have premise scenes, at least a strong suggestion of what's going to be going on in premise scenes. And we have that All Is Lost that we're building up to. And then we want to sort of, with a logline, typically you're going to be suggesting the trajectory of the rest of the story. So you take us to about up to the middle, and then you're like, and now they must blankety blank before blankety blank, and that's going to be taking us through the second half of the movie. Okay, does that make sense to everyone? And is this clear how you can just reverse engineer parts of a well-written logline to find out what your first couple beats are going to be?
Question about the world of flaws. So, I mean, if we don't write our world, what do you mean by if we don't write our world perfectly? In other words, if there are people who have problems, but I thought there should be problems in the world and people struggling. But you're saying the people in the world should be flawless?
No. I'm sorry. Can you clarify the question? I don't think they should be flawless.
Working as intended. Don't start poking holes in it and right away. In other words, don't say that the world has problems and it's not like a perfect place.
No, you can definitely.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding what your wording means. I'm sorry.
Sure. That's okay. So yeah, characters will have flaws, of course, and different things about the world will have flaws in them. But for instance, if your story takes place in a some kind of system, for instance, like the judicial system, or it takes place in a world where, think of the
Oh,
Purge
you
movies,
mean like
right?
a simple question like, oh, why didn't they just fly the Eagles to
Sure.
to bring the ring?
That might come. Well, so let's look at Lord of the Rings as an example, right? We start in the Shire. I know there's a prologue, but we start in the Shire and we show Middle Earth being a good place that's worth saving, don't we? We aren't focusing on all the evil stuff going on. We set this foundation of this is where the hobbits live. This is what their objective is going to be, to save this place. The world working as intended in context of Lord of the Rings means we set the baseline for this reality and we grow to actually care about the Shire. And yeah, we have things going on in the background. Like, we know that we've had that prologue that suggests there's a ring, there's this guy named Gollum who found it, and we know that we're going to get to that dark stuff eventually. But when we see the world working as intended in this context, we mean we don't want to immediately start asking, well, is the Shire really worth saving? Or we don't want to start saying, the Shire is corrupt and evil and wicked at its core, right? Because why would we then care about the characters trying to save it? So in this case, it's going to be set the baseline reality of the world in such a way that we understand why we're going on this journey. And in other contexts, this might mean other things. In Minority Report, that's a story about a future cop in a world where people can predict crime before it happens. But in the first 10 minutes, we don't say, here's all the flaws and problems with it, though, do we? We see, oh no, when it's working as it's supposed to, we see why the main character would buy into this. We can see how the world has evolved to this point. If it's not like it has so many flaws that we question, why did they even do this in the first place? So I guess that's just a couple examples of what to do here. It doesn't mean that nobody has flaws and nothing's wrong. It means that this is a good place to establish what the world is like and maybe why it's worth saving, or why your character is where they are, or how did things shape up like this. These are all questions that we can answer in the first 10 pages.
All right, now I get it. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions on this? Okay, let's keep going through the slideshow. So, you already have a couple beats with a well-written logline. You have your inciting incident, which is going to be the big one. And nowadays, people like an inciting incident that happens earlier. Movies from the 70s and 80s, for instance, or I guess maybe even in many previous eras, had longer first acts, and the styles just change. You have to be just cognizant of the fact that a reader will start to get antsy nowadays if the inciting incident does not happen by page 15. There's just no way around it. If you give them really good stuff to read and watch, or to read, and if everything is fantastic, they won't really care that much. You can push it a little further, but not after page 20. Don't give us an inciting incident after page 20. If you want to have a really long first act, maybe around 20 would be like the absolute latest you can put this. But stories need to get going a little bit quicker nowadays, and the expectation is going to be the movie gets going around page 10 to 15. So just keep that in mind. Like, you can like long first acts. That's fine. We like a long first act. I like a long first act. Lots of my favorite movies have long first acts, but be aware that the reader will be looking for a story to get started. And it's better to overcorrect and have the story get started a little sooner rather than undercorrect and have us wait a long time. Because it's easy to lose the reader in the first 10 to 15 pages. It's easy to get them to go, this person doesn't know what they're doing. I'm not going to bother with the rest of this, or I'm going to skim the rest of this. Unless you're paying for a read or something, in which case you're paying for the read. But you get the idea. We want to get the movie started early. One of the most common structural issues is the story doesn't get started early enough. Structure. So let's look at structure. This is going to be the organization of events in the story, the order that things happen in. Story beats are basically going to be a list of the major events of the script. So that's what we're working on to turn in next week. So general thoughts. This is your friend, not your enemy. It's going to help you organize and finish your story. Try not to fight with this or try to reinvent this until you've tried it a couple times, I guess. It's really useful to learn those foundations and these basics of what does a movie look and feel like on the page. Most people don't grow up reading these. Most people don't grow up writing these. So most do not have a very intuitive sense of what a good movie looks or feels like, which is why it's so vitally important that you be reading pro work at the rate of minimum 1 script per week. I recommend 3 scripts per week. Some of our previous co-hosts, like Scott Barkin, says you should read a script every day. And I can't disagree. So this is to help you. This is not a set of manacles slapped on you. This is going to put you more in, by studying and learning this like the back of your hand. This will put you in tune with what readers are looking for, and you can change it once you know what they're looking for. Like if you're like, I know they will expect the story to start a little quicker, but I'm going to deliberately hold them in suspense because I have something even better in mind. And that can usually be how you think of it. I mean, trying to be a feature writer in Hollywood should be able to write in 3-act structure pretty well. But you can always adjust it if you have something better in mind. And by the time you're done with multiple rewrites, don't worry too much that it's going to feel formulaic because the midpoint happened on page 45 of 90. Don't worry about that. Those benchmarks will have moved around a little bit in the editing process. So just don't concern yourself that having a 3-act structure rigidly applied to your movie will make it feel generic or bad in any way. You don't have to have absolutely everything nailed down in scene cards, but and you always do have to just discover some things by writing the script. It's true, but just read a lot of scripts. You have to read a lot of scripts before you'll start to be able to intuit some of these things, and otherwise you're going to be running into problems and issues that you don't even know are there. So other structures do exist. Some movies are maybe not in 3-act structure, perhaps, especially when you go into art house, that kind of world, or foreign films might use different structures too. Most of the time, if you try to do kind of crazy stuff like that, the reader is going to interpret your shenanigans as ignorance and dock you points accordingly. So just keep that in mind. I mean, if you have some mind-blowingly different thing that you want to write, and it's amazing, then write it and blow our minds. Go ahead, feel free to blow our minds. But chances are the reader will not know what you're doing and will think that you're just being silly. What's an act? So movies have 3 acts. Act 1 is like the setup. Act 2 is what we might call the confrontation, and as you can see here, is significantly longer than the acts on either side of it. And then Act 3 is like the sort of resolution, the final conflict, and the result of the story we watched. You have a couple other points that are on here. We have your break into 2, so the transitions from one act to the other are also very distinct types of moments that need to be realized in a very specific way. Inciting incident is something that should happen early and in a very strong and clear way, about 10 to 15 pages in the script. Then here we have climax, which is going to be usually some kind of what we might call a final battle. Here's all of the points written out onto this little roller coaster diagram. That's not mine, but it belongs to someone else that we are sharing here. So this is a pretty good picture of where everything goes. The stuff that you should pay attention to here are, 1, midpoint as a sort of break after the premise scenes where you can see that the rising tension, which is what this white line represents, kind of evens off for just a moment, but that is only the calm before the storm. It's like we're in the eye of the hurricane, and on the other side, it's going to ramp up significantly, so that by the time we get to that pit of despair, you have hit the lowest low that this character could possibly experience. And a lot of the time you do want to be doing that is trying to write so that we are experiencing the highest highs and the lowest lows that this premise has to offer, meaning what is the worst possible thing that can happen in this premise and what is the best possible thing that could happen in this premise. Those are both tools that you can use, and oftentimes the worst possible thing that can happen is going to be that all is lost pit of despair type section there. Let's go at, well, these are just other alternate structure examples that you don't have to learn, but this is just to show you this is not the only thing in the world, but this is what people expect a Hollywood script to look like. And a professional Hollywood writer needs to know this very, very well, especially if you want to be doing things like rewrites and polishes, which I do a lot of. And if you don't know this like the back of your hand, you're not going to be able to diagnose where should this go, why is this midpoint feeling like it's lacking, why do the premise scenes feel like they're taking too long. You won't know what too long feels like unless you really familiarize yourself with this. Here's Hero's Journey, here's the story circle, here's a bunch of different ones. There's so many structures, look at all these things. But at the end of the day, you can also sort of see they're sort of similar. There's just some stuff that's just written into human psychology as to how we best understand and interpret a story. Even the season map from Netflix TV shows shows you a similar shape, even though this reflects not just telling a story on a single episode basis, but on a whole season of 8 episodes. So let's look at story beats. We have all these different sections. You've probably all heard me talk about these things many times by now. I might just give the truncated version of that today, just so we aren't going over the same things again and again, and then I can pause and take questions on these, or if anyone is unclear on any of these things, then I can also clarify and expand on this more. So, story beats, this is, how many is this? 10? I think it's 11, maybe. I forget exactly how many this is. But these are very similar to what you'll see in many other structures. There's nothing about this that's crazy unique or different. These are all just kind of different sort of names for the same thing. So even if you want to mix and match this kind of stuff with your own personal favorite book or structure or something after this, you can totally do that. But just for the purposes of this course, we're trying to all talk in these same sorts of terms, just so that we're all on the same page. And if you're writing something with sequences, I don't know what that is. We have had people write in the past, and I'm always like, I don't know what 8-sequence structure even is, but if it works for you and you can translate to 3-act for me, that would be very helpful. So here's just a quick summary of each of these sections here. So, intro. Pages basically 1 to 10. This is sort of the normal world functioning as intended. Like we said, this is where we really get to meet the hobbits in the Shire, or we see Luke on his farm. We see the world working as it should, or as it has always, kind of. And we kind of see what's missing. What does the main character want? This is where we see, Luke is staring out at the sunset. He's like, I want adventure. I want to leave this place. I want to make a difference in the world. You see that your main character is in a kind of stasis usually, which might mean that they are stuck in a situation where they want to change, or maybe they need to change, but either they do not want to or are not capable of it right now, until the catalyst happens, which might be a coincidence, but is going to set the events of the movie in motion, and is going to force the main character out of this stasis and push us towards that premise. This is like a call to adventure where we see, okay, something has now changed and your main character is forced to now respond and react. A door has been kind of unveiled to them, and now they are going to spend the next 10 or so minutes of the movie trying the various locks and realizing, oh, that one's got a little poison needle trap on it. Oh, that lock is stuck shut. That lock is frozen. There's no way I'm getting through this door, is basically what they are saying. If there's a simple journey to make, or an easy question to answer, or an easy quest that they're about to go on, this might not be the best story best told as a movie. Movies are typically not about easy decisions, simple, basic quests, or it would be difficult to... I suggest make full use of this section, which is often, I think, is the most misinterpreted and most underutilized section of a script. This should be really, really fun. Trying the locks is probably one of the most important sections early on to grab a reader and to show them, wait, I'm not just going to dither and dilly-dally in this section. I am really going to put some of the best stuff here. So this is a great time to try out the superpowers, or to go on a couple dates together and try things out, or to basically learn the rules of the world. We ask the question, is the hero ready for this journey, or is the world ready for them to go through it? And we may...
Conor, can I ask this real quick?
Startled me. Go ahead.
Well, sorry, buddy. I just wanted to say, with the try and the lock scene, I'm still quite... not scene, sorry, but section. I'm still... Maybe I'm... I guess the way I've been sort of, looking at, break into 2 and break into 3 are, these, critical decisions that the character is making in order to, go on the adventure of some sense, or some sort of choice that they're making to, really go, alright, I'm making this decision to act this way from now on, in some sense. So the break into 2, for me, sort of signifies the going into that unknown world. It's very, hero's journey-esque in that sense. Right. So with the try and the locks, the way that I usually... looked at it was in some sense, as you're sort of saying, it's them trying to figure out how to open this door in order for them to then open and go through it. But I guess I was curious, is how long do you... Obviously it's going to vary depending on the story and on what's, I guess, promised to the reader at that point, but with the premise. But I'm just curious, how long that sort of lasts for typically, because I can't really think of what would take... Maybe maybe if I could specify it to my genre, then even it's in a mystery movie, perhaps it's what sort of takes place in those sort of moments, and because it doesn't seem like a lot needs to take place before the decision to take the case in some sense. So I'm curious.
Usually, a mystery will be more like catalyst. Here's the crime scene, but wait, things don't add up. There's this clue that doesn't add up, and how could a left-handed person have stabbed him from that angle? And then they're gathering clues, they're interviewing witnesses, they're realizing, wait, maybe multiple murderers did it. Did they? Or maybe the person, we're starting to realize lots of people had motive to kill the person. It's not just a clear suspect like we thought it was going to be. We start to put together all the pieces that don't fit in a mystery at this point. So this can be totally fun in a mystery. This doesn't have to just, taking the case is not always going to be that break into 2 in the mystery. It's going to be Usually it's going to be more like we're gathering the clues and evidence, we're realizing how hard this is going to be, and then that break into 2 is going to be the moment where we say, despite that, now is when we kind of can't go back, or we have our first main lead. It's like, okay, I know that we have a bunch of suspects, but I think I know who did it, and I'm going to go get them. Something like that. Or I'm going to go interview them, or, depending on what's going on. But how long?
Right, yeah,
about 10 minutes is about how long you want to spend doing this.
Okay, so like 10 pages kind of thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, okay, that's a lot longer than I thought it would be. Okay. Yeah, because I guess like the way I'm like thinking about it, at least for like, I'm trying to think of like a story that, it's almost like for me the way I guess I'm conceptualizing it, it's almost like for a mystery, it's almost like the break into 2 in some sense is like the realization of like, oh, this is actually like, it's not just a normal crime. It's like, this is something that we're going to need to like figure out. It's not, as you're sort of saying, it's going to be a lot more difficult, but it's almost like the try and the lock scene is this them thinking at first, oh, this is just a normal crime. I'm just going to go about it the normal way I would do this.
Mm-hmm.
But as I'm figuring this out, I've realized that just through discovering one little simple thing, perhaps, or a multitude of them, this is like, oh, this goes deeper in some sense, which is forces them to then take that break into that deeper world in some sense. Is that a good way of thinking about it?
For sure. And also think in terms of central relationship, especially like Sherlock Holmes and Watson. Catalyst is going to be like in that kind of story, it'll be sometimes if there's a buddy pair up, it's like the blood expert has to team up with a super eccentric bone expert to solve this crime. Then this section is going to ask the question, can they work together? And the trying the locks is then going to be like, we both have our own ideas of what the crime scene is. They're arguing about that. Or who the culprit is. They're arguing about that. We watch them. They go through the drive-through together, and they're like driving around in their car together, just arguing. They're like, we're seeing all the conflicts that will come up between the central partnership, perhaps. And this is always a good question, or it's always a good section to have some kind of driving question behind it. That question might be, can these people work together, or is this team gonna work? Is this family gonna, be able to pull through this? Something like that. So yeah, there's lots of things that you can do here.
Yeah, so I don't want to get too caught up on this because I know you got the rest of the class, but I'm always curious about this point because I guess at the moment, would you say, if not minus that part, but would you say that the central relationship really needs to get set up around that trying to locks, like no later than that?
Usually, yeah.
Because at the moment,
it becomes a really good spot to set that up. It doesn't have to, but it's a good spot for it.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about the background noise. Yeah, I guess because at the moment I think it needs to be a bit earlier, maybe the try and lock scene. But I think my core relationship is starting to come in around the break into 2 moment. But I guess it's more that they're deciding to like team up in that moment, I guess. So maybe that's a better way of looking at it.
Sure.
But I guess. Sorry, I'm sort of thinking out loud here.
Oh, you're good.
But I guess I'll think there real quick. I just got distracted by the background noise. Give me a sec.
That's okay.
But thank you.
I can come back to you later on if you want.
Thank you. Yeah, cheers.
All right. Where were we? Were we still in first act? Okay. So yeah, first act. We should have lots of fun with trying the locks. Don't neglect this section. Don't try to skip it. It will really show if you do. And it is just a fantastic opportunity to take advantage of. It should be one of the most fun parts of the movie, usually.
I thought of it, sorry, Connor.
Okay.
Does this, would you, I guess, the conflict within the relationship you're suggesting should be quite clear in that moment. I guess maybe that's a problem that I'm running into, maybe. There's not enough conflict initially. But does it have to be that clear-cut, black and white, like these people look? I guess it depends on the type of relationship, obviously, but
yeah,
seeing the differences in philosophy maybe is a good thing to emphasize in this moment.
Well, is it? Yeah, I guess if it's a buddy type story, is if this partnership is really central to the A story or the kind of like the main crux of the movie, then usually we're going to want to have those characters have flaws or some reason they aren't going to work together perfectly right away. It just makes for great scenes, watching people bounce off each other and often in the arc of a relationship, it's going to feel more impactful if at the end they learn to overcome those earlier ways that they poked each other, or ways that they annoyed each other, or ways they didn't work well together. It's if they just meet right away and they just get along well right away, and they get along well for the whole movie, it's probably not a buddy story.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I've just realized what I think it is. Why I'm struggling with it. It's like my idea with the two characters were that they're both lying to each other about why they need help from one another, and it's like, and so because of that, I thought they needed to, in some sense, like come to an agreement about what it was that justified them hanging out together. But in doing so, it kind of removes any of the conflict in that moment because they are willingly in that moment deciding to hang out. So, I mean, do you have any suggestions as to how to avoid that? Because I think maybe that's why I'm feeling those scenes are a little bit flat. Obviously, the tension can come from knowing that they're lying, but I'm really trying to tell it from one character's perspective in that moment. So you wouldn't even really know that this girl's lying until later. So,
Well, people partner up all the time, even if they don't work well with somebody else. I think you can have quite a bit of conflict, and then if they, despite that conflict, need to team up, that makes a really good break into two, because you're sort of saying, like, you know, our problem that we're facing is so great that despite the fact that we have all these differences between us, or we hate each other for all these reasons, we have to work together. So this is a nice moment to actually you emphasize how bad that problem is. The more conflict that they have in that partnership, the more vital it suddenly seems if they have to team up.
That's a good point. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Good questions. Good discussion. Where are we? Okay, so break into two is when at the end of the sequence where they're trying out the superpowers or whatever it is that they're doing in the trying the locks. This is where, you know, we decide to actually stop the first bank robbery, and that is going to be, we are choosing to go on the journey of the movie. If we're assuming the journey is this person becomes a superhero. They're going to stop that first robbery, and from here there's really no going back, and you propel us with a lot of energy and momentum into Act 2. So we should be excited. We shouldn't be like, checking our watches around now. We should be scrunching in our seats going, oh, this is about to get really good. Premise scenes. Then things actually need to get really good. And the most fun parts of the movie, I know I said it was trying the locks earlier. Really, every part needs to be the most fun part, blah, blah. But the stuff that you thought of early on, like, this is why we come up with those blockbuster moments and those awesome scenes, regardless of context, pretty early on in the process, because you need to you need to heavily weight those into the premise scene section, because this is where we want to see what we came to the movie for. This is where, if it's a movie with a giant bear on the poster, we probably want to see a giant bear chasing people in the movie, or eating people in the movie. If this is a movie where two, on the front of the cover, it's a rom-com, we see the man and the woman stand together clearly, they get on each other's nerves, then we're in the premise scenes, we're going to want to see them going on dates and getting on each other's nerves, because this is where you need to deliver what we showed up for and deliver payoff to those early promises that you've made. Because the first act is all about setting up promises. Second act is going to be starting to fulfill on those promises in slightly different ways than we think that you will. And that's a big part of this, is that surprise is at the key of storytelling. A surprise is like the heart of storytelling, because a story where you don't know what's going to happen next is one that is inviting you to keep watching to find out the answers to these things. So, be setting up all your promises in the first act. We'll break into two, and at that point you're going to be engaging in those awesome moments that you envisioned early on. You're going to be just doing the thing that you said you would be doing, perhaps in that Oreo pizza method I've talked about before. If you haven't heard this, I say, you order a I know we have so many metaphors, but if you order a pizza and the pizza guy shows up and is like, sorry, we were out of pizza, and you're like, oh, I'm so sad. Then he opens the box and inside it's an Oreo pizza. Everyone's like, no way. It was a pizza, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. That's what you're really aiming to do here in the premise scenes. Have fun. Just have fun. Put like your best moments into premise scenes. Midpoint, we escalate the stakes. So this might be a kind of natural pause where we have maybe accomplished the first half of your character's goal, but there's a lot to go. So this might be a moment where we have an initial victory, and the bad guys are still recuperating and are about to send their biggest guys after us yet. And we might realize here that there might be some kind of twist or reversal or new piece of information added that mixes things up and makes us realize, wait, we've only gotten started. We have way more to go. Escalation is going to say the fun is over, and the consequences of those stakes raising at the midpoint are going to be fully realized here. So if at the midpoint was the bad guys all go back to their leader and they're like, we got beaten up by the superhero, this is where the bad guy goes, well, that's okay because I have a super awesome giant robot that we're going to send to the superhero next. And the escalation sequence is where the giant robot starts blowing up your hero's house, or it blows up his car, or blows up things that they care about. And the escalation, we're targeting things that the character cares about because you spent the first half of the movie setting up things they care about and making them feel like they have actual, an actual family, an actual job, an actual career, an actual stuff that people care about in real life should be things that your characters care about too, even if the context is totally different. A fish doesn't, or, if your main character is a fish, we can still care about the fish's family. It's not going to be that abstract to us. Whereas if it's something more abstract, we might have a little trouble investing fully or understanding. What else? All is lost. So we're building up through escalation to this moment where it seems things could not possibly get worse, and we want to hit your main character then with the worst outcome they could possibly imagine. In movies with a strong central relationship, which we've mentioned, so I call them just buddy structure movies, which includes romance, by the way. Romance, buddy cop, similar structure to that, buddy comedy, all these things. This will often be a breakup or a parting of ways. Or if there's a mentor, this will often be the death of the mentor, right? This is Obi-Wan gets stabbed by Darth Vader, Gandalf falls off the bridge. This is the loss of the person that helped us get where we are so far, a lot of the time. And it might be a fight between them, or a disagreement between them, it might be an actual death, depending on what's going on in your genre.
Could I ask, sorry, Conor, in regard to the All is Lost moment and the Pit and Despair, I was curious again how much space is between those moments a lot of the time, in terms of pages or
Sure.
time.
So All is Lost is usually going to be 65 or 70, and it's just going to be one distinct moment. So it's like one bullet point in your outline. All is Lost shouldn't be a series of scenes. All is Lost is just one moment, and then the Pit of Despair is the series of scenes that follows that moment. So it's usually going to be 5 to 10 pages.
Okay. Could you give me an example of a couple movies that do this very clearly off the top of your head? If you can't think of anything, just move on. That's fine. But
sure. Do we remember? I mean, have you seen Lord of the Rings? I've been talking about that a lot, I guess. But this is.
I have. It's been a while since I've watched it, so I remember more the beginning of those movies more than the end. Sorry. So maybe something else.
Something else. What's a movie? Name a movie you like. If I know it, I'll tell you what the.
Well, I know the example in like Save the Cat, for example, is like around that moment is kind of like when Buddy, he's standing on the edge of that bridge. Mm-hmm. But is that the all of what's the Pit of Despair and the All of Lost moment? It seems like the Pit of Despair is like
kicked out of the family, right? Or he leaves.
Right. Oh, right. He leaves. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He leaves the little thing.
And he thinks the family doesn't want him anymore. And the Pit of Despair is everything that follows that, where it's the couple scenes that follows that. In that movie, it's probably 5 pages.
Okay.
So this is going to be the character reacting to and processing the All is Lost moment, and trying to they could be trying to adjust to life now that they've lost this stuff, or it could be them staring like Buddy, sort of saying, "It's all over. I guess I'm going to kill myself." I think is sort of what it is.
Right. Yeah. I didn't know how dark that moment was as a kid.
I think it's a reference to that moment in It's a Wonderful Life where
I haven't watched it.
Jumps off the bridge. Oh well.
I haven't watched it.
80-year spoilers. What is that from the 90s?
I hate you so much. Okay.
No, that's the
anyway.
That's the whole. Okay, well, you get it. So yeah, this is the character like trying to adjust to life now that they have had that terrible thing happen, and maybe realizing they can't go on, or they're trying to rationalize how could they go on after something so bad has happened.
I got one.
Oh,
Luke Skywalker gets his hand cut off.
Yeah, in the second movie, right?
Luke Skywalker's hand. Yeah.
Right. So this is the end of Empire Strikes Back. Yeah.
Literally falls into the pit of despair.
He does fall into a pit of despair. That's true. That's a good example. So hopefully that clarifies how those moments are going to be working. All is Lost. It's not a series of scenes. It's just one clear moment that the pit of despair is then responding to. Thanks for the question. Let's try to finish up. We got about 10-15 minutes left. So break into 3, super important. Break into 3 is going to be a moment that could not have happened if not for this journey that just led up to this moment. But this will often be a breakthrough or a reconciliation or apology, or that time where we say, okay, this is our crazy new plan and it has to work. It's our last possible chance. But it only should be the result of the journey we've seen so far. It's the logical conclusion to, or it's not the final conclusion, but it's the logical sum of all of the trials that your character has gone through so far. This is where we often see, did they learn the sort of lesson that this situation has been trying to teach them, or did they not? Or are they going to maybe realize it too late, in which case we might get a tragedy or something. But this will be, the character will remember or find something useful, or take one last swing at the bad guys using these, all the choices they made so far, all of the pain and suffering they've gone through. Now is when they're going to have to dig very deep and learn what they're really made of and become that kind of final version of themselves. This is where it seems like they're at their absolute lowest, and that will make that ascent into the finale even more powerful the lower that we get them here. So we have to really hit them hard. Think of what are the worst stakes that could be experienced by your character in this genre and world, which doesn't always mean they get cancer and die. It might be, a big fight with your best friend in some genres might be the worst possible thing that could happen. So don't feel the need to, exponentially hit them with a giant mallet out of nowhere. But do try to just think of the things that they care about, the things that you've established in the first act that they care about, and threaten, damage, or take away those things. And then without those things, they're forced to realize what really matters. And, the Grinch, he realizes that it's not the gifts that make all the Who's happy. It is the fact that they have each other, and they are, they have their families, and they are singing anyway. So his heart grows 3 sizes, and because he stole Christmas, now he sees they didn't need the gifts, or he didn't steal Christmas at all. You can't steal Christmas because Christmas is each other. It wasn't the gifts in the first place. So that's the moment where that character, we physically see him change because his heart actually gets bigger inside of his body. And he now, because of what he's done and because of the choices he's made, he realizes the truth, and he accepts that truth, and he swoops down to the town for the great finale, which is him returning all the gifts. So that break into 3, remember, it's the sum of the movie. It's sort of the point of the story, and it sort of makes it can make a huge part of your dramatic argument click into place. So finale is going to be, now that they are armed with those tools and those self-discoveries, or they've, pulled themselves up to their feet one more time, and they are going to show what they're really made of. They're going to synthesize what they've kind of learned in the trials of Act 2 with the values they always had in Act 1, and they're going to move in and take on those villains in that final showdown, whether that's an actual physical fight, or a big dance-off, or a big argument, or whatever it is that just represents your character trying to overcome the antagonist. Usually we want to put the antagonist and protagonist absolutely head-to-head throughout all of the finale. And usually the defeat of one is going to signal the kind of allegorical or metaphorical victory of one philosophy or worldview over the other. That's not always going to exactly be how it plays out, but that's how we are sort of trained to understand these things. And then we end with denouement and maybe epilogue, which is sort of might be those moments at the very end where we wrap up loose threads in a couple pages. We don't want to spend way too long on this. You tend to be able to, or you tend to lose a lot of audience attention after the climax in a feature script. So you have to make everything after the climax quite meaningful, or else you just want to cut quicker, or you just want to cut as much of that as you can. In especially, remember 90s thrillers, they would just end at the climax because they were just trying to shave off every single minute they could and just get right to the point. It would be like, all right, we beat the bad guy, credits just roll over the screen. It's not that it's impossible to do that. It feels kind of 90s when you do that, but it might sometimes work. In any case, epilogue, be pretty quick, be pretty brief, get to the point, and tie off loose threads and give us a peek at the road ahead. Suggest this is what's going to happen in the world now that this has happened. This is going to be the result of all this effort and all this work and all this, whatever, all the pain and suffering we've seen. This is the result at the end of it. And this is how the world has changed. This is how the characters changed. So I'll just leave this up for a second, and so you guys can note this down if you need to. I've also linked the slideshow into the chat if you need to go back and review anything in this on your own time. So I'm going to leave this up for a minute and just ask questions about story beats. Are there any sequences here that you guys are not clear about or want examples of?
I actually wanted to bring up a point because you mentioned at the start of Star Wars where Luke is looking out into the sky. And that's in the intro, right?
Yeah.
You cut it. Yeah, well,
Yes.
The thing is, that happens at around page 20, which, according to these rules, is after the intro. That's past the catalyst, technically.
The movie's from the 70s. And standards have changed, and the things that readers are expecting act structure to look like have changed a lot. So that's why movies
So
from...
I've been trying to, when I write spacey type of things, I'm like, I gotta emulate Star Wars, otherwise nobody's gonna like it.
Well, that's not true. It doesn't have to just be. It doesn't have to be just like Star Wars or just like anything.
Well, no, I'm not like just creating Space Wars or whatever.
Right. But don't worry about. You don't have to stick to the structure from any. You don't have to emulate any given structure. And I will just say that tastes have changed over time. It's not going to be impossible to write a story that takes a little longer to get going nowadays, but usually the reader will interpret your shenanigans as ignorance, and they might give you the note, this takes too long to get going. So you can try something. You can always try stuff. You're always free to try whatever you want, but in this class specifically, I'm trying to just get you in tune with what the reader is going to be expecting.
Okay.
Good question, though.
Understood.
Mm-hmm. Other questions about structure? Anybody have points here that they're not clear about in our last couple minutes here? And if not, then I can take a look at a sketchbook or a logline if somebody has one of those they'd like me to look at. Everybody feel like they're confident that they can write out a draft of this by next week? No problems? Okay.
And by draft, you mean fill it in with the information of what happens here, what happens here?
Yeah, at least, a couple sentences for each of these points. Probably the biggest sections would be premise scenes, which might have 3 to 5 bullet points. Maybe the finale would have 3 or 4 bullet points. Just a couple bullet points under each section. Okay, if everyone feels good about that, you're turning that in for next week. So you're turning in a document that is going to be, it doesn't have to be a PDF, you can just share the drive link if you want. But we want to see at least one sentence under each of these points. All right, does anyone want me to look at an updated logline or sketchbook or anything like that?
I think I got this.
You have another update for logline?
Yeah, so I really want the avalanche to be in the logline, because that's like, a big part of how I would want to maybe sell this as an avalanche movie.
Okay.
But I also really like the idea of having something hunting them, because I think I could have a lot of fun writing that. So I came up with this. After causing an avalanche to create a viral video, an out of his depth content creator must get his trapped crew safe from an enraged territorial grizzly bear.
I love it. There was just a grizzly bear survival thriller on a blacklist recently. I think it was called Grizz. So I would just maybe just think, is there another big animal that you like that is not a bear necessarily?
Yeah. Well, it could just be a black bear, or it could be
You're right. It could be something. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. But I do love that. I mean, that is very cool. Mountain lions could be scary, just saying. But there's all kinds.
That's not. Yeah. But am I gonna ask a dumb question? There are mountain lions in like the snow, right? Is there like a snow version of that?
I believe so.
Okay, I'll look it up. Maybe I'll go mountain lion. Well, that's true. I did see a video of how to survive a mountain lion attack recently, and that was kind of fun to. So Oh, a polar bear.
Yeah, a polar bear.
Nacho said polar bear.
I'm not sure if that would work for the part of the world that you're in. Are they in the U.S.
No.
for this, or where are they?
They're in the U.S. Yeah.
There. Okay.
Snow leopard.
Snow leopards are cool.
Maybe it's an albino or an albino.
Albino. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of options. Yeah, if you want to have sort of one central threat, that can be a great way to it sounds a little bit horror-ish, but that's fine. I mean, survival thrillers often.
Well, and it doesn't. It can be, it can be the threat, but it can, they're also in the wilderness, so I can play around with that. The bear isn't always the threat.
Yeah. No, you're just giving an example of like this is sort of standing in for a lot of the threats, but they're also, I think you've clarified in that version they're trapped in the wilderness. Or they're is trapped the right word? Are they actually trapped somewhere?
It was between stranded and trapped. I guess stranded.
Stranded sounds better.
Yeah.
Because trapped actually to me sounds like we're stuck in a confined space.
Yeah.
Whereas stranded might mean we're lost. We don't have any way of getting out of here. Or we don't have the resources to get out, or something like that. I think stranded is what you want.
Cool beans.
All right, thanks for that. Sounds good though.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Other questions on anything we've talked about today from anyone?
I just wanted to see if my logline
Oh, sure. Let me take
is
a look
better or worse.
in the chat.
I'm sure it still works. But
After
I'm trying to think of another word for. Sorry. I'm trying to just think of like another word for reckless. Reckless feels like it's just like really upfront, like just disregarding of any like safety whatsoever. I'm just like they're more philosophically reckless in the sense that like they're a bit more abstract in the way they think. They're a little bit more carefree. I mean, carefree is maybe a good word
to
for
the
it.
extent that it causes problems, right?
Right, yeah. So I mean, I wrote down a bunch of words.
Yeah, maybe you'll just have to try a couple out. But I think reckless does work fine. For the
yeah, it just seems like she's like crazy. I don't know. Like reckless to me just feels like someone who's just like, rah! And so it's not really like that. So I didn't want to like imply something that would not become that in some sense. So
okay, you may just need to just keep that word like on a, just try a couple. Use this as a placeholder for now, but try a couple different words as you proceed. After his favorite painting is missing on his watch, an obsessed, risk-averse security guard must use the contents of a mysterious suitcase and the help of a reckless actress to find it. Perfect.
cool. All right, man. Thank you.
Fast. A+. Wow, look at that. What is that, a lynx? Thanks, Nacho. Wow, I've never seen that in a movie.
That is a caracal.
What is it?
Called a caracal.
Caracal.
It's a species of cat. It's if you look up meowing caracal kitten, it sounds like a toothbrush, electric toothbrush. I'm not even joking.
That's awesome, and they can control their ears like that. That's so cool.
I've never seen that, but their ears are distinct.
That's awesome. All right, well, maybe a giant caracal could be hunting them through the snow. I'm sure Josh will come up with some good animals. There's a lot of scary animals out there, so especially after an avalanche, I could imagine that maybe it's uncovered a den or something, or it's like woken something up, perhaps. I don't know. Okay, we're at the end of this class. Thank you guys for coming. I'm so glad we have such a large group for this boot camp, and I hope that you guys are feeling confident about your scripts. We have a lot of different genres, and people are doing a lot of different things. We have horror, comedy, fantasy, drama. We got everything this time, so I'm super excited, and I hope you guys are feeling good about this. Let us know in the chat channels if you want to get any more assistance on story beats or on Logline by next week. You can use the Loglines with Conor channel as a member and get direct feedback from me within like a day or two. Or you can send a message to me or Nacho if you need specific help. But using the Feature Bootcamp chat will often be the best place to post. You can either tag myself or somebody else in it if you want to. Thank you, Nacho, for linking that. If there's no other... Oh, Carmen's written list for first page. That's awesome. So, some folks are a little ahead. Some aren't quite as ahead. And anything's fine, but try for next week. Excuse me. Turn in the story beats and read a full script from the Blacklist from beginning to end and be ready to talk about what did you notice, what did you learn, what did you like or not like. It's essential that you be continuing to read throughout the course.
Got a question about your Blacklist link. There's no what's the term? There are no log lines, no genres, so we can be like, oh, I need this. This is the script I should read right now. You know what I mean?
Folder has
Oh,
the
there's a
scripts
button
are
that-
numbered, and the one that starts with a 0 is going to be a guide document that has a full list.
I was
of
just looking through. I just went like I just pressed button time.
You found it? Okay, so you found the full directory.
Now I know. I was just
Okay.
like jumping in when I read one.
I see. Okay, yeah. So every folder will have a guide in it, so you can always just look for that number 0, and it'll tell you what everything is in the list. And Nacho has macros for individual genres, including possession. That's a new one. Cool. Thanks, Nacho. All right. So we're wrapping up for now. Next week, turn in story beats, read a full script. That's it. We'll see you next time. Have a great night, folks.
Cheers, Conor.